Many people who run businesses may well see their taxes going up. People who are not wealthy, but might maybe get their income from having a couple of rental flats that they might have scrimped and saved to buy.
It's clown world, man.
You're not scrimping and saving if you're buying your second and third house. Again, when the mean number of houses owned is less than one. Scrimping and saving is what poor people do to buy their first house, or indeed to be able to put food on the table, or to be able to clothe their children. You do not scrimp and save for the extra houses that you literally do not need, that you are hoarding. The bereaved little landlords with their scrimping and saving to own multiple properties. Fuck off, Laura.
We know there's going to be a hike in employers' national insurance contributions, and Rachel Reeves confirmed that doesn't fall under her definition of a tax on working people. Why are people who run businesses not working people?
But what's interesting here is that what's kind of screwed Labour over with the messaging on this is they could have talked about working income, right? Because then the problem that they have here is they say, well, how's this person who runs a business, are they a working person? Well, they might do some work. Lots of people who own like small businesses, for example, also employ themselves within the business and pay themselves a salary. But say, for example, you increase tax on capital gains on employers' national insurance contributions, their salary they're paying themselves for the work they do for the business, that's not getting taxed more because that's working income. But their ownership income, which they are going to get taxed more on, is a completely different thing, right? If you fiddling around your tax affairs, you pay some salary and some dividends, which a lot of small business owners do to take advantage of the fact that there is like stratified taxation across both of those lines of income. Well, you can say, well, no, look, all we're doing is making sure that people who make money from owning rather than from working are getting taxed at the same rate, and that would be fair. And then they can make a distinction between those two things. But because some person might be both an owner and a worker at the same time, they say, well, I may have 1,000 million rental properties, but I also have a 4-hour bar job that I do that makes me £50 a week. Therefore, I'm technically a working person, but you're taxing me on my properties when it's two completely different sources of income.
I suppose the difference, or the thing that might happen in that scenario, would be that people would start paying themselves dividends and just start paying themselves exorbitant wages.
I mean, if you're getting taxed the same rate on dividends that you are on your employment income, you might as well just pay yourself a proper salary from your business rather than having to hire an accountant that makes you move things around so you get paid some different bits of some things and some shares that you then sell on and pay a little bit less capital gains, right? All these different kind of myriad ways to pay as low tax as possible. If you made it so that regardless of whether you own or you work, you get taxed the same regardless, it means that you couldn't do this thing where you fiddle the numbers so you pay as little tax as possible. It makes so much more sense.
Yeah. Also, I think just looking at the slightly broader picture of this, you can tell who actually runs the country and who the government govern on behalf of, because you can do as much austerity as you like, and that basically gets no real coverage. No one cares. Whereas if you threaten to put taxes up on fucking landlords or business owners, she will come down on you like a ton of bricks.
It's 100% another artifact of how inbred our journalist class is. When, of course, 95% of the country aren't landlords, right? 95% of the country don't have enough kind of investment income or capital income or pay capital gains to the point at which it's relevant in terms of how they're going to be differently taxed in whichever tax band it's going to be, right? Like the vast majority of normal people in this country don't pay any of this, literally 0% most level, or a tiny fraction. But our journalists with their private educations and their Oxbridge degrees and all of the little spectator garden parties they go to, not only do they probably have lots of rental properties themselves, but all of their friends do as well. All of their little circles they go in is all people talking about how they're shrewdly taking the blood money they get paid from Rupert Murdoch and putting it into the property market to fleece money from the poor. So that in their little circles, just like how the private school tax is something that really affects them, so they talk about it non-stop despite it not affecting 93% of the country, just the same you're just calling me not a working person because I make landlord income. Yes, you're not a working person. You're not working.
What we set out in our manifesto was that we would not increase VAT, national insurance or income tax on working people, and coming out of this budget, working people will not see higher taxes in the pay slips that they receive. That is really important because we know the pressures that people are under. On other measures in the budget, other tax measures, you'll have to wait to ask directly Rachel Reeves when she is here. And I can't you'll appreciate, the Sunday ahead of the budget, I can't speculate on precise tax measures.
This isn't speculating. I'm asking a question of principle. Why are people who run businesses not working people under the Chancellor's own definition?
Because our manifesto is all about VAT, national insurance and income tax on people whose main source of income is the income that they earn from going out to work.
Well, that's not really what your manifesto said, actually. Your manifesto said repeatedly, in fact, here's a quote here from Rachel Reeves. You've read it. It says in black and white, we won't increase national insurance, income tax and VAT. So I'll ask you again, why are people who run businesses not working people in this government's eyes?
As I say, our manifesto was very clear about who we were talking about and what we meant. Wider measures, other spending and taxation measures within the budget, you'll appreciate the Chancellor will set all of those out, and it's more than my job is worth to come on your programme and announce ahead of time what might or might not be in the budget.
But I'm not, Secretary of State, asking you about the decisions on Wednesday. I'm asking you what you mean as a government, what you meant in your manifesto by working people. The definition of this is incredibly important because you're using it as the foundation for how you make decisions about people's pay slips, people's income. So how do you define a working person?
Well, you are inviting me to speculate by the nature of the question that you're asking. What I'm saying is that after the budget, when people look at their pay slips, they will not see higher taxes. I think that's a very clear commitment about why we are making sure that we recognise the importance of getting that right, because working people have faced higher taxes year after year under the Conservatives. We face some really tough choices, because not just that in-year 22
billion, take a drink,
£1 billion black hole that we faced, but the longer term direction of our country, the terrible growth that we've seen in recent years, we are determined to turn that around. And all of the work that I'm leading around skills is
the main thing to take away from this so far is that, again, she's just not answered the question, which is how you know that they actually didn't want to have this conversation. They didn't want to have a conversation on what the definition of a working person was, but they did want to have the freedom to be able to do it, and they probably didn't consider that they would have this very specific definition questioned over and over again by the media, because they don't want to piss off, Middle England, like the aspirational class types or whatever. But if they actually have the courage of their convictions, just like we do here on the left, the Marxist left, right? Where we freely say that a working person is those who sell their labour for a wage. It is the employee in the employee-employer relationship, or indeed a sole trader, who they may own their own means of production, but they put all of their labour into creating commodities that get sold, or in creating a service that gets sold, right? You're not somebody who is making money just because you own a thing and then getting paid either rent or capital income from those things. Capital and rental income is different from labour income. That is the very specific definition that we make. It's not even Marxist, it's David Ricardo. Even Adam Smith, the father of capitalism, knew the difference between rental and capital income from labour income. I mean, he hated renter income. He thought capital income should all be reinvested and that labour income was where most of economic growth came from. That is how Smith, the grandfather of capitalism, the Wealth of Nations is the Bible of capitalism, the foundational text. And even he knew the difference between labour and capital income. It's liberal economics understands it as being different parts of the production function, the basis on which we understand commodity production. So anybody who disagrees with this doesn't understand capitalism. Right? It's a very basic thing. They could explain this immediately, and we might have a change of zeitgeist in how we approach politics in this country. But because they didn't actually want to do it, they refused to properly back themselves on this decision and are just saying a bunch of nonsense and pablum rather than asking the real question with a proper answer, which they could easily do.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, they'd call Smith a communist if he was around today.
Yep.
And probably say he was a Czechoslovak spy.
part of how we back businesses, how we get growth back, and how over time that allows us to invest more in our public services to break that doom loop that you described of ever higher taxes on working people and lower growth.
But forgive me, I'm not asking you about the details of the budget. I'm asking you what...
She's Paxmaning! No, I didn't ask you if you threatened to overrule.
I mean, she's absolutely right to do so. She's not answering the bloody question. A very easy and simple question that they could answer if they wanted to. But
Yeah.
again, just in typical Labour fashion, again, with the next election almost 5 years away, they could get away with some short-term electoral downswing by pissing off a very tiny sector, very, very loud but tiny sector of the electorate. Those with rental properties or those who own small businesses, whatever, not a particularly huge sector of the electorate. They could make these people angry for one budget and actually potentially A, answer this question easily, and B, change our perspective on politics. But they're just not doing it. They're just not doing it because they want to keep these people on board for some reason.
Well, they're Tories. They're ideological
Yeah.
about this. She definitely is. I think there are lots of Labour MPs who will vote regardless with the Labour government, but don't necessarily like it. I think there are a lot of people who voted for, the 2-child cap and the freezing grannies and all the rest of it, who don't like that. They had to go against what they believe. Whereas I think for Rachel Reeves, she's fine with it. She's a banker at heart. That's what she is.
Labour means by a working person. Now, the Prime Minister's given one definition.
I'm
asking you what you mean by a working person.
A working person is someone who derives their main income from going out to work. And coming out of this budget, people in that category will not see higher tax.
Again, that's also not true, but not in the way that the right wing want to say. It's people being affected by that fiscal drag. They're going to get fucked. Businesses getting fucked is fine. You can tax a leech as much as you like because it's not a human.
Well, speaking of this,
Taxes.
What's very funny to me is how many resistance liberals, the hashtag FBPE crowd, they're absolutely livid. They're mad. Oh, they're so angry at Rachel Reeves. Oh, potentially taxing them very, very slightly more. Oh, no, oh dear. Brendan May was desperate to get the Tories out. And the very moment that Labour flirt with not being identical to the Tories in any way, immediately the Tories come thrown out of the pram. What are you going to do to the small businesses? How dare you think one person was saying, I'm a landlord. The rental income that I generate, she said very specifically with hashtag FBPE in her bio, just shows you these literally, I know obviously the far right are the worst sector of the electorate, but these are the most annoying. These are the most annoying sector of the electorate. The right-on types who believe that just because they're Thatcherites who wrap themselves up in pride flags, that it makes them progressive. You're not progressive. You're a Thatcherite. You're a neoliberal. This guy, Brendan May, even said, why don't we bring back Blair? And I'm like, well, if you're so reactionary that a 2% rise on national insurance for employers will cause you to want to return to the guy who killed 1 million Iraqis, then maybe you're not a progressive. Maybe you are just somebody who really, really loves the short queue at passport control.
So as a cabinet minister, you're entitled to a total salary of more than £160,000. Are you a working person?
My income derives from my job, and I'll pay whatever taxes are required of me.
But so you are a working person because your income comes from your main job and you're salaried in that way. Is a small business owner whose average net profit last year might have been £13,000, that's the average, are they not a working person?
But we can go through a range of different
If it's profit, then it's not a salary, is it?
No.
If it's profit, then it's come from capital investment. It is within the foundational equation that describes capitalist consumption, MCM prime, right? That the profit is the prime there. You've turned money into a commodity and then into money plus profit. What work have you done there? You've not done work. You've turned money into money. They're not a working person if they are making profits specifically. Wages, you're a working person. Profits, you're not. It's really simple.
hypotheticals about who may or may not be captured by tax measures that may or may not happen in the budget.
You'll
be able to ask when Rachel sat here next weekend.
Sorry. You say, well, I can't speculate on whether somebody might potentially be impacted by a tax in the budget, but your own definition relies on the people being taxed not being under your definition of working people. This is why this question is fucking important. Because if you do tax people who come under your definition, you've broken your manifesto pledge. It's a really easy understanding. It's really easy to understand why this is being framed in this way, Bridget.
True, but I don't know why they would need to even ask that, because I can't imagine Keir Starmer ever breaking a promise. So clearly it can't be that option. It must be the other thing. Fact.
You can ask her about the precise measures that she has announced. I know it's frustrating ahead of a budget that I can talk about some areas, but not all of it. But what I'm clear about is when people are after the budget, when they look at their pay slip that they receive, what they will see is a Labour government that has prioritised making sure they do not see higher taxes, because we know for 14 years we've been going in the wrong direction.
But many people who run businesses may well see their taxes going up. People who are not wealthy, but might maybe get their income from having a couple of rental flats that they might have scrimped and saved to buy.
It's clown world, man. Desperately scrimping and scraping to save to buy 2 flats to rent them. What the fuck are you talking about? What world do you live in?
You're not scrimping and saving if you're buying your second and third house. Again, when the mean number of houses owned is less than 1. Scrimping and saving is what poor people do to buy their first house, or indeed to be able to put food on the table or to be able to clothe their children. You do not scrimp and save for the extra houses that you literally do not need, that you're hoarding. You're hoarding houses that somebody who has 0 houses, right? It's very easy to understand, well, no one should eat until 8 seconds until everybody eats. But when it's something that's important to be able to live, a shelter, we don't understand this very basic concept. Oh, this little poor little... the bereaved little landlords with their scrimping and saving to own multiple properties. Fuck off, Laura.
People who earn their income in different ways,
Well,
not
pause
from being
again.
a salaried member.
Fucking
Landlords-
3 words. That's a record, surely.
Literally.
Come on.
Landlords earn nothing. Making and earning money are totally different. Landlords earn fuck all. They don't earn anything. Parasites do not earn, Laura. Leeches,
That's not true.
likewise.
That's not true. Leeches earned that blood. How dare you? That's all I have to say. That's my contribution to the topic.
I mean, maybe this is a very specific, definition that I'm using here. But for me, you earn money if you work hard for it.
Exactly. Yeah, you do. I mean, when they say they make money, they take money. That's what they do.
Exactly.
They don't earn anything. They don't create anything. They absorb. They are sponges.
They're scroungers.
They take other
Literally scroungers.
shit from other fucking people that they need to live.
Exactly. Like Kelvin Mackenzie of Justice for the 97 fame was out here saying that this Labour government is punishing anybody who's aspirational to try and be able to pander to the idol of society. Mate, landlords are the idlest fuckers in society, living off of other people's money. They are the ultimate scroungers, second only to the royal bloody family. They are the ultimate in scroungers who just sit on their arses, living off the hard-working paychecks of people poorer than them. No, there is nobody more idle than a fucking landlord.
May see their taxes going up. And I'm not asking you to tell us what is in the budget.
You are asking, with respect, you are asking me to speculate because that's hypothetical. Next weekend, after the budget, when Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is sat here, you can cover all of that. What I can say today, the clear direction that we have set out as a government is that we hold to our manifesto commitments not to increase VAT, national insurance or income tax on working people. And they will see that after the budget. Other measures, tax and spending, matters for the Chancellor, I'm afraid.
I'm going to try one more time. Is the owner of a small business a working person?
We can keep going around this.
I didn't ask you if you did overrule him. I asked whether you threatened to overrule him.
I mean, it's good. It's finally good we're getting, again, Laura Koonsberg doing some journalist impressions.
And I appreciate your frustration. I would love to come and say, here's all the measures, line by line.
I would love to
That's
come.
not my job, however. That's for the Chancellor. She'll address
I think it's our
every
viewers
question.
who will be frustrated.
Well, they
Secretary of
haven't.
State.
I can get that. And they haven't got long to wait. The budget's on Wednesday and the Chancellor can address that with you directly.
But do you accept that what is running through Labour's programme here in terms of economics, that you are making a distinction between what people earn and how people earn it? That's what is running through this right now. You are shifting things so that people
That's a good thing. That's a good thing to do.
Yep.
It is indeed good to separate people by how they make their money, whether or not they're economically productive or not. Like, I don't think that there is anything necessarily virtuous about capital investment, but I can understand that it's necessary within capitalism to creating growth and creating wealth. In the same way that I would, in labour, very incredibly important, as no production is possible without somebody to labour. You can invest as much as you want, but if you've not got somebody to do the work, nothing gets created, no commodities, no economic growth, no prosperity. People
Indeed.
who own shit that already exists and make money whilst providing nothing, there's something completely different. Rentierism as a concept is parasitic and extractive and completely and totally unproductive and idle. Yes, of course, we should be talking about the difference in how people make money. We used to talk about this as a distinction forever until 1979. And suddenly we stopped talking about it. The idea that it's beyond the pale, that they might seek to change that discourse somewhat. Not that I think they even want to. They've been forced to by their own kind of manoeuvring, rhetorical manoeuvring pre-election. Regardless, it's a good thing that we're having this conversation. And you acting like it's beyond the pale that we even got this point shows you how neoliberal ideology has essentially become dominant. It's become cultural hegemony.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I've said this before. In Westminster, there is one acceptable opinion, and everything else is extremism or student politics. And the idea that landlords aren't like to be revered is heresy.
Get pay slips, who get salaries, are treated differently to people who make their money and pay their bills another way. Do you accept that?
Yeah, people who are leech, who don't work for a living, should be treated differently than people who work. Yes. Yes, Laura. Notice how she worded that. People who pay their bills in a different way. Do you mean with other people's money? Yeah, actually, I consider that to be a different thing that should be treated differently. Yes, actually.
Yeah, or through other people's surplus value.
I personally think people who honestly earn their money and thieves should be treated differently. Yes.
The very least.
Yeah, we are looking at how we make sure that there are fair choices across the board. That is what Rachel Reeves is considering. But these are tough choices, very difficult choices. And this does, I'm afraid, take us back to the inheritance of this government. £22 billion black hole, major challenges, whether it's in our hospitals, our schools, our police, you name it, challenges right across our public services. But what we have done as a government right from the start is make a different set of choices about what we prioritise. So in education,
we've mainly prioritised tickets to the football and Taylor Swift concerts. So, did you see Rishi Sunak going to many Taylor Swift concerts? No, you did not. Fact.
For example, the last government were presented with the teachers' pay award. They got that report, they put it in a drawer, they walked away and they called an election. They left us that choice to make. We decided that our teachers deserved a pay award. We were able to do that. But that has meant difficult choices across government in order to do it. But that is the difference that you will see with the Labour government, that your viewers will see, how we prioritise health and education and make sure that we do fix those foundations of our country, because for too long we've been held back. And the choice at this budget is around investment or decline. And the change to the fiscal rules, what I'm setting out today...
And they have chosen decline, unfortunately.
What's funny to me as well, she's essentially already admitted that the 22 billion black hole is nonsense, because she said, well, we chose to give the teachers a pay award and we were able to do that. Hang on a minute. You included the pay awards for public sector workers in the 22 billion black hole, ostensibly, because you were forced to by the independent pay review bodies. And I'm like, well, no, hang on a minute. No, we can all agree that it was good. I mean, we all think that it was good that you increased the salaries for these people, but then it's not part of a black hole, is it? That was a political choice that you made on the back of doing austerity in another department or whatever, or taking away the winter fuel allowance, which is, again, a hole that you're now digging for yourself, because people are starting to say, well, they're paying doctors and train drivers and teachers out of our winter fuel payment money. And you could have just increased capital gains tax, which apparently they might theoretically do, but they should have done that after the budget, so it was obvious, rather than doing your first act in government as taking away money from old people and giving it to public sector workers. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for memberships. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.